Ha 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 ha. There was a horror far more terrifying inside of this valley at this very moment. Something more dangerous than the zombies and skeletons. A black terror clad in the black thunder, running around and killing everything in sight. Die. Higher. It was walking through the sky, in a step that looked like dance moves, tearing through the blackened sky, a monster wearing a black morning gown. Huge gauntlets on its first. It rushed towards the skeleton wyvern and managed to cave its skullet with nothing but a single strike. It was already too late for the skeleton wyvern, too late to dodge, too late to attack and too late to defend itself. Upon impact, the black miasma and fog started to ooze out of its entire body. In the next moment the skeleton wyvern was turned into a fine dust, and the only thing that remained was the black thunder-clad monster. There are basically two types of horror that Mia was absolutely unable to stand no matter what. One was a horror that would leave you devoid of hope. The horror when you go up against a horde of zombies or monsters and there is nothing that you can do to fight back against them. The fear created by the assumption that all of your efforts shall go in vain, no matter how hard you try. The other is the type of horror when the murderer has the absolute advantage over the victims and proceeds to kill them all one by one with little to no effort. Huh? It might only be my imagination, but have we perhaps met somewhere before? Exclamation mark. Kion? The face of the monster turned towards Mia and Kuritaro, but because of the veil she was unable to see the monster's face. But in Mia's eyes, this thing looked like a monstrosity taken straight out of horror story, one without face whatsoever. The voice she let out at that moment was also nothing more but a primal instinct driven by fear. She then grabbed Kuritaro and dashed back the way she came, with the speed and agility that were clearly far exceeding her normal attributes. This is impossible. I cannot do it. This area is too much for me. Those were the thoughts she was carving out deep inside of her heart. I was with someone named Chi. Yeah, and she would continue to have a dream like that for about a week or so. Chapter 301 Part 1 Chapter 301, Job Hunting is a series of ups and downs. Part 1 For fuck's sake. If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you shall get. There would be no penalty placed upon me, for I have not committed any park, right? At least that's how it should be, right? Please tell me that's just how it is. I beg of you. However, if there is something that I regret about this whole situation, it is the fact that I have lost my opportunity to have a go against that prize hunters. And when it comes to this situation, I still have my concerns about the possible penalties of going against the bounty hunter, but I have no other choice here. I just have to do it. Oi, you there, Tango guy. Hold on to this for a moment. Why don't you? Why yeah, right, all right. Huh? What's with this muffler? Why is so strangely warm? Hearing Tango's words, the Emil muffler in his hands twitched a little bit, but in the end he managed to control himself and keep the mimicry up. Besides, it would be very hard for me to actually focus on fighting while having to simultaneously worry about Emil's well-being. Having taken care of that hand, having one less thing to worry about, I grip my sword tightly and proceed to go the center of the human ring that was formed around the bounty hunter and I. Still, one has to wonder, why the sudden change of targets? Why would the bounty hunter attack some player that had not committed park even once in this game since the moment he started to play it? And perhaps it is because this development was just too sudden for them to comprehend, but the members of the TS dress-up corps had little to no problem with letting someone like me, an intruder, to take part in their activities. In other words, right in this very moment you could say that the pairing of me x Ruthia-chan was more or less established here. The setting was more or less the same as the one before. A ton for edge user versus a one-handed sword user who was half naked, and once the eyes of everyone present were focused at the two of us, our battle could begin for real here. Now then, just whatever should I do here? How should I approach this issue? These tunfas suggest that Ruthia-chan here is a close-range type of fighter, probably a dual wielder with an insanely high skill statistic. And as far as her weapons go, It is without a doubt that she can switch between the modes of her Tunfus ridiculously fast, so fast that no normal player would be able to replicate such a maneuver. On the other hand, yours truly here specializes mostly in mobility, so it means more or less that if I let even one attack to connect with me, I am done for. However, since my avoidance and evade are constantly improving with each battle and opponent I face, I am more than confident enough that I can hold on my own in a fight like that. The question is, how do I want to handle this matter? Do I want to adapt a hit and run strategy, chipping away at the bounty hunter's health while prioritizing evasion and staying alive? Or should I just throw aside all caution and just go all in with the damage, hoping to settle this as fast as possible? Took too long thinking? The bounty hunter apparently decided to take the initiative here! The attack comes fast as the wind from the side, aiming towards my neck without fail. However, at that moment I activate in fight and bend my body backwards to avoid the first strike, and bouncing off the second strike with an accurate movement of my hand. Speaking about ultra-fast attacks with a chance of killing you on the spot, what comes to my mind right away is the Gravekeeper Wizardman's Tukike's sword technique. However, that attack was only ultra-fast, and that's that. It was a single strike, but this opponent here, this attack was just a first part of the longer combo attack, which means that it was leading to another technique right away. This is still dangerous, but it also means that the next attacks are going to be telegraphed somehow, keeping the momentum of the sideways swing from before. The best course of action would be to shift into the rotary slash using the other Tunfa, which would allow you to regain even more momentum and shift into a myriad of possible attack from there on out. But on the other hand, rather than letting her continue with her own combo, I could go for my own combo, or simply attack with my own sword in order to stop her flow of attacks from occurring for a moment. I decided to do the latter, and once our attack collided, fortunately there was no critical effect from the collision. However, since her strength stat must have been greater than my own, even though I blocked the attack I still ended up losing a slight portion of my HP as a result. God damn it. What comes next makes me think of a flip book. A steady barrage of attacks that come one after another with such swift motion as if they were a single flow of the river, not a series of single actions that just happened to result from one another. Or just like page 1 naturally changes to page 2. However, the combo does not end with the intercepted attack. After all, as I have seen earlier, the attacks of this bounty hunter do not amount to equipped weapons alone. She tries to perform a leg sweep attack after closing the distance between us, an attack that is sure to be a start of a new combo altogether if I just let it connect like that. Was she going to forcefully aim for a critical hit? I know that's what I would try to do in such a situation, since it would have been a nice opening for any further attacks. So in anticipation of the inevitable onslaught of attacks that was bound to happen, I assume the defensive posture and brace my sword for impact. No, this cannot go on like that. If I only stay on the defensive, there is no way for me to win this at all. I must take the initiative here and press on the attack. That is why I waited for the right moment, and then I activated the skill that would let me turn this attack around and leave a suitable opening. Alright, Aura. The skill that I activate boosts my movement speed temporarily, allowing me to hit Ruthia-chan with an attack of my own. Of course, the attack itself got blocked easily, but from this position the initiative for the next attack was still at my side. Then I used my free hand to summon another sword from my inventory, launching a series of multi-hit attacks that were meant to stop Ruthia-chan in place. However, just like it should be expected from a bounty hunter, it must have come to a conclusion that allowing some of the attacks to connect would be best here, because right after them it pressed on the attack once more. Chapter 301, Job Hunting is a series of ups and downs Part 2. My dual-wielding prowess is based solely on slashing because I favor swords as my weapons of choice, but Ruthia-chan is closer to being the blow type judging by the nature of her Tunfus. But it all means one thing, both of us need to get as close as possible to our opponents, which means this is the time for the infight to shine. I avoid the blow of the left tunfer that was aimed at my temple by forcefully twisting my body to the side, and right after that I was forced to evade to the back in order to escape the uppercut of the right tunfer that was aimed at my chin. That was close, too close. If I did not back away and evade in time here, my chin would have been shattered to pieces for sure. Just thinking about it sounds painful enough. HNGH. Normally I would not be able to do such acrobatic moves combined with evasive actions, because I would have lost all the momentum due to that last backflip I was forced to do. However, this time around I had skill correction on my side, so I was able to pull through somehow. I then perform a somersault kick in order to put some distance between Ruthia-chan and I. All around me, I can hear excited voices and shouts of the onlookers. I would gladly respond to some of them, but I was too busy staying alive in here to pay attention to such background noise. Legal defense! Exclamation mark. I then lean forward as if I was about to make a crouching start position, and the moment that I was almost on all fours I used that momentum to lounge myself at Ruthia-chan. Tunfer flies towards my belly in order to stop my advance. However, that was only a bluff. A rather aggressive kind of diversion that no normal player would ever think of. In response to that I use Formula Drift to compensate. I then spin my upper body sharply while jumping in the air, avoiding a fast leg sweep that Ruthia-chan wanted to perform on me. Thanks to that I managed to maintain my balance and, no, wait, jumping? Avoiding it? That was a lie. I have been had. Using the help of flip float here, I kick the air behind me at a very low altitude, as if I was aiming to do the breaststroke in the air. Then I used that air foothold to launch myself forward at accelerated speed, barely managing to avoid the tunfer's blade that slashed through the space where I was mere second ago. Exclamation mark. The blade of the tunfer comes right after me, drawing a deep line on the ground. If I don't avoid it here, I am going to be a goner for sure. So first and foremost, I do a roll on the ground in order to escape the incoming blade. Then I use my elbows as support and lift my body up as soon as possible. And then I use the spinning slash with my swords to gain some much needed momentum that will allow me to escape to safety for a short moment. Lastly, I get up while spinning vigorously, just in case there was a tunfer's blade tracing right behind me. My semicircular canals, do you best, don't let me down now. I crossed my swords and intercepted the two traces that came after me from the ground level. Another direct hit prevented, but the shock coming from this black was so severe that my legs started to tremble a little bit and my vision became blurred for a short while. Again, if it was not for my mobility skills, because of my inferior strength stat, it would have been all over, but the skills are still in effect, and I am alive because of that. The interlocked weapons caused sparks to fly in the air, and then I jumped back to barely escape from the danger zone. After that violent exchange of attacks and acrobatics, there was a brief pause on both sides. Both of us were giving it our all, but even we could not keep on doing such things without at least a moment to catch our breaths. That's the price you need to pay for being unreasonable in the first place. Phew. I let out a small sigh in order to catch my breath, but I stayed vigilant just in case. Listening to my surroundings, I could hear a bunch of people doing the same thing, so it must have meant that the tension here was super high. How about a little timeout? Exclamation mark. Thought as much, you stupid asshole. Why won't you drop dead already? Or some mysterious player was right now fighting with the bounty hunter after being roped in on this fight by a total accident. And in response to the show that this guy was putting together with the summoned Ruthia-chan, the members of the TS dress-up corps could only sigh in awe and admiration. Just look at those moves. I wouldn't be able to do even half of that even if I tried. Don't you think this guy might be as strong as Saba-san? First year is the very first city available in this game, a starting point that every player has to go through at the beginning of their adventure. Therefore, it is not rare at all to see half-naked players here, who had sold their starting equipment for money and supplies. That is why the players around here misunderstood the nature of this new challenger here, taking him for a newbie who just happened to start his adventure with this game. But seeing how that player was moving around, They were coming to start to realize the very nature of their mistake. What's wrong? Some of the high levels decided to mimic a beginner here? I don't know. We don't understand it, either. Besides, is there even a merit for a high-level player to mimic a newbie in the first place? It's the first time I see it. Besides Saba-san, I mean someone able to withstand the Tunfa combo of Ruthia-chan. Oh, did someone call my name just now? Oh, Saba-san. I didn't know that you were here. There was a certain player who appeared just now amongst the crowd, looking as though he did not understand what was going on here. The members of the dress-up corps surrounded him in an instant, wanting to explain what was going on. Had some business to take care of in real life, but now it's finally over. Is that what the commotion is all about? Yeah, I mean, it's so nice to see Ruthia-chan here, but for some reason, all of a sudden her aggro changed from one of our own to some totally unrelated player. Huh? Someone unrelated to us? Who is he, then? In this situation, that was the most obvious and plausible question to be asked. Therefore, that player did not need to wait long for an answer. I happened to take a glance at Hypien earlier. I'm pretty sure it was Sanraku or something similar to that. What did you say, huh? Upon hearing that name, the expression and the atmosphere surrounding Saba changed completely. Sanraku, huh? The name of that player was Survival. And right about now, he was looking at Sanraku and the bounty hunter just like a predator would look on its prey. But there was also a strange kind of joy mixed into that gaze. The only one who was able to hear the words that Survival muttered next was the one staying right next to him. However, even though he heard the words, he was unable to understand their meaning. No way. A survivor of Mew? However, that question was swept away by the loud cheering of the crowd when Sanraku and Ruthia-chan clashed once more. Chapter 302 Part 1 Chapter 302 Setsuna no Kausa Part 1. Gee goddamn it all to hell. A swirling strike comes right at me at high speed, the blades of the Tunfa aiming precisely at my neck. It was terrifying that at this speed it was this accurate. Right away I throw Dukesalam in front of me to block that attack. However, it seems that this one was only a decoy as well. The real blow here was aimed right at the center of my chest. So this time around the Tunfas were used like a slashing weapon above all else. And let me tell you, escaping the barrage of attacks from such tricky weapons is an art in itself. The one that was mobilizing all of your skills and acrobatic abilities. At that. God fucking damn it. I'm concentrating here as much as possible. So why? Nothing seems to be working here. Even though the imaginary role-play, Ryugen Fugaku is fully operational right about now, I am still finding myself at a huge disadvantage here, not being able to seize any kind of initiative or put any kind of pressure on my opponent. Not to mention that Dukesalam's durability was starting to fall well below 50%, and this sword should have been virtually invincible for as long as you are managing to land successful critical strikes. What the hell? I can also feel like the players gathered around me were already aware of the direction in which this battle was going on, and now they were simply watching for the sole purpose of seeing this through to the end. If this shit continues just like that, does that mean I am going to be killed for a reason that I am not aware of? Something beyond my comprehension? If I go on the defense here, I am going to die. If I go on the offense here, I am going to die. But even quicker than while being on the defense. For crying out loud, I do not have nearly enough caffeine to figure this one problem out. Oh well, please do your best here. Naturally generated adrenaline. This opponent of mine here is by no means the fastest opponent I have fought against in this game, but that's not what is important here. The important bit is that with its every attack it manages to trace the best optimal way of attacking, which is making it up and downright broken in more than one way. I cannot even catch a single break here. The bounty hunter swirls like a vortex and tries to get behind my back. I can also see that it brought the Tunfus back to the striking mode, which means that its attack patterns are going to be more complex and versatile in the nearby future. However, the range of those kind of attacks are only that of fist weapons, so for now it looks as though I still had a space to maneuver. So it did not manage to corner me just yet. Rebuilt. Yuwa. That's kinda amazing in its own right. It's starting to get noisy in here. Is that the BGM playing, or is it something else? Because if it is the BGM, then I need to pay attention to the melody playing just a little bit more. Man, I really want to listen to some rock music right about now. Oh no, that won't do. Need to focus. Once I stop hearing the music from the background, I might really be done for here. Speaking of which, I am pretty much in some deep shit here, am I? While talking to myself like that, I reflexively parry or block any incoming attack that the bounty hunter was throwing my way. Then, I free one of my hands and open the inventory window, quickly browsing through its contents, at the same time doing my best to protect myself from any kind of danger that my opponent was throwing at me. It was hard to do, but fortunately I was managing to hold my ground just fine. For some reason, even though I usually pay no attention to it, the speed at which the new weapons were deployed was extraordinarily slow. It was making me really, really angry. Since the limit of the 7 days was yet to pass, I cannot really use its succeed mechanism, but that does not matter right now. But even so, I moved to intercept the incoming Tunfa strike with Dissipator Shield. How do you like that, huh? The muffler that covers the bounty hunter's mouth prevents me from reading its expression. Same with that hood. It was so deep that I could not really see the look in my opponent's eyes. However, from the way it moved right about now I could have sworn that there was at least a sight of frustration somewhere out there. It is really regrettable that this AI targeted me for some bizarre reason and that it was attacking me with more and more ferociousness, but I have come so far right now. It would be downright miserable and regrettable if I were to just give up here and let it kill me just so that I can have this battle over with. If I'm playing this seriously, I want to win. That's for sure. And that is because this city here is the place where all of the new players that are starting their adventures in Shangri-La Frontier will arrive in the first place. And needless to say, if I were to die here, I am going to respawn in a completely different place whatsoever. Or maybe the reason lies somewhere else entirely. This is the city of beginners. So I do not want for the beginning players to see me lose. And especially not now, since such a huge audience converged on this location. But it does not really matter what is the origin of this feeling that is rooted deep inside of me right about now. What is important is that it is there, and it is screaming out loud those words. I do not want to lose this. Ooh. Ready or not, here we go. I leave and give you about 5 seconds of a head start. There is nothing unique to is to begin with, so there is absolutely no reason for me to try and hide it. So I use the size of the shield in order to push the bounty hunter back after he managed to push me in so much. It steps back a little bit, and it created a split second of a blank moment in this battlefield. And it was in this blank moment that a pair of gloves appeared on my hands and I slammed my right fist right into my chest. The real battle starts now. But don't you dare to cry about it later when I shall blow you away. Even kill penalty won't stop me here! Exclamation mark. While I am wearing this armor made out of black thunder, there is nothing that can stop me. Even the fastest of enemies' attacks won't be able to keep up with me. As I swing my fists around to psych myself up a little bit, I could clearly see for the first time that the bounty hunter Ruthia had been upset by my actions. Chapter 302. Setsuna no Kausa Part 2. I wanted to shout it out loud. I wanted to shout at the bounty hunter why it targets me all of a sudden, when the one it was supposed to target was standing right there inside of the crowd, happily minding his own business. But the bounty hunter would never listen to my shouts, continuing to attack me relentlessly and going full throttle. If you are going all out here, then I shall surpass the skill difference in between us with sheer difference in stats and performance. With that shout taken care of, I activate Moment's Sight, a skill that gives me the advantage of moving at the accelerated rate while the rest of the world is slow motion. With that, I could switch to my plan B here, which was going all out on the offensive all at once. Even if you still have your normal stamina, you also cannot underestimate the mental exhaustion caused by this fight. I must do something decisive here and do it soon. Without the extra source of fuel in form of caffeine, I would soon run out of steam and that would be my end here. That is why I must stretch this 1 second here as much as possible, betting everything on a single strike in this one instant. I'm going to beat the she, but at the same time, this skill is like a double-edged sword here in such a way that I had less time to assess my surroundings and think rationally. That is why I only just now noticed one simple fact that I would have noticed much sooner under normal circumstances. Our eyes have met. In this world of accelerated thought and slowed motions, the eyes of the bounty hunter were clearly catching up to me and following me around. It was there, in the gap between the food and the muffler, a pair of blue eyes glowing like sapphires, emitting light similar to that of a star shining bright in the sky. I don't know why, but I knew right away that right now my eyes were exhibiting the very same effect. It was the eye that would not miss anything, not a single frame would escape from its marvelous gaze. That simple, lone fact. The NPCs could use both magic and skills the same as us pioneers can. It was affirmed when I caught a glimpse of the outline of Ruthia-chan's mouth moving, formulating those simple words. Moment's sight. Next, I can feel my body starting to slow down. But it should be enough for my attack to reach its mark. At least it should have been. But then Ruthia-chan muttered another word, disappearing for a split of a second. Mac. The moment that Black Thunder and Sonic Shockwave both intersected, I could feel sparks filling the inside of my head, and then I just blacked out. 5! Exclamation mark. No way. You have to be kidding me. I'm still conscious? I mean, respawn. It didn't happen. So does that mean I am still alive? Bugger? No. It was no use. The thread of tension that was there until just now was completely gone. With the trembling hands I hit my chest with my right fist again to stop the effect of the Levin trigger, disaster hand. Once that is done, I collapsed to the ground like a tower that had its foundation blown away, and if I did not support myself with my arm, I would have fallen completely flat here. I look up with my vision all blurry, only to see a bounty hunter assuming the position for making a move that I could only suppose to be a finishing blow. Yutsura Mikagami, my virtual image focusing aggro was torn apart into 6 equal pieces. I would say that it was a job well done, don't you think? At that moment when the copy disappears, there should be responsibility transfer or rather a conflict of what else to target. And at that speed it would be all the opening that was needed here. I have no idea if it's a skill or magic ability. However, if it is something that occurs instantaneously, it must be something similar to my own Levin trigger, disaster hand. But no, even if it was something faster than that, I can still escape it no problem. And seeing that I was able to somewhat read the movement of this here bounty hunter, I dare to say that my brain right about now was giving it its absolute best. Does that mean that I have transcended beyond the limit what we call an instant? No. It's no use. It's already on the move. It was an instant move. One that would surely cause me to die about 30 times before I would actually be able to do something about it. Or should I just clench my teeth here, trust in the random numbers and go all in Russian roulette style? I do believe that I will be leaving myself in the RNG god's care here. Could we possibly set on monetary agreement here and forget about this whole incident ever happening? Apparently this new bounty hunter favored a sickle over Tunfus.